The rain came down in sheets, blurring the neon lights of Los Angeles into a kaleidoscope of colors that danced across the wet pavement. Nathan Harper, a towering figure in a tailored navy overcoat, stepped out of his sleek black sedan and glanced at his watch. It was well past 9, and the city was alive with its usual restless energy, even on a stormy Wednesday night. His driver, Eduardo, a quiet man, held an umbrella over him as they crossed the sidewalk toward a small, unassuming restaurant between a laundromat and a shuttered pawn shop. The sign above the door read, "Taste of Home," in warm, handwritten letters, glowing faintly against the urban gloom. Nathan, a white American with sharp blue eyes and a jawline that could have been chiseled from marble, wasn't here by choice. A delayed flight, a missed dinner meeting, and a craving for something other than the sterile hotel food had led him to this city corner. His assistant had found the place online, a hole-in-the-wall Vietnamese spot with glowing reviews for its pho and spring rolls. Nathan wasn't one for sentimentality, but the idea of something authentic, something real, appealed to him tonight. At 42, he'd built an empire in real estate, turning empty lots into gleaming skyscrapers, but moments of simplicity were rare. Inside the restaurant was a cocoon of warmth. The air carried the scent of lemongrass, star anise, and fresh herbs, mingling with the soft hum of conversation from the handful of late-night patrons. Wooden tables were adorned with small vases of marigolds, and paper lanterns cast a golden glow across the room. Behind the counter, a young woman moved with the precision of a conductor, her hands deftly arranging ingredients on a prep board. This was Lily Nguyen, the heart and soul of Taste of Home. Her rich brown skin, that spoke of her African-American heritage, gleamed under the soft lights as she worked her dark curls pulled back into a loose bun. Her apron, stained with fish sauce and chili oil splashes, was a badge of her craft. Lily, at 28, had poured everything into this restaurant. It wasn't just a business, it was a legacy, a tether to the community her mother had raised her in after her father's passing. She'd learned to cook from her mother, who'd learned from her own mother, recipes passed down like heirlooms. The restaurant was a labor of love, a place where neighbors gathered and stories were shared over steaming soup bowls. Tonight, though, Lily was on edge. The landlord had raised the rent again, and whispers of a redevelopment project loomed over the neighborhood like a storm cloud. Oblivious to the weight of her world, Nathan shrugged off his coat and scanned the menu board. He wasn't used to places like this small, cluttered human. His usual haunts were polished with waitstaff who knew his name and sommeliers who anticipated his taste in wine. Here, the menu was scrawled in chalk, and the only server was a teenager wiping down tables with a rag. Nathan approached the counter, his polished loafers clicking against the linoleum floor. "Excuse me?" he said, his voice carrying the clipped confidence of a man accustomed to being heard. "What's quick tonight?" Lily looked up, her dark eyes narrowing slightly as she took him in. She'd seen his type before, the suit, the posture, the faint air of impatience. Rich is entitled, and probably here on a whim. She wiped her hands on her apron and stepped closer to the counter. "Pho is always quick, if you're in a rush," her tone polite but firm. "Beef or chicken?" "Beef," Nathan replied, glancing at his phone as a notification buzzed. "Make it fast, please." Lily's lips pressed into a thin line. She turned back to the kitchen, her movements brisk but controlled, and began assembling a bowl. Nathan, meanwhile, paced near the counter, his eyes drifting to the photos on the wall, snapshots of smiling families, community events, and a younger Lily standing proudly with her mother at the restaurant's opening. Something about the images stirred a memory he couldn't quite place, a fleeting sense of something he'd lost long ago. As Lily carried the steaming bowl to the counter, Nathan grabbed a napkin from the stack nearby. Their paths collided in a moment of chaos. His elbow knocked the bowl from her hands, and it shattered on the floor, sending shards of porcelain and fragrant broth across the linoleum. The restaurant fell silent, all eyes on them. "Damn it!" Nathan muttered more to himself than anyone else. He looked down at the mess, then at Lily, expecting an apology or a flustered reaction. Instead, Lily's eyes flashed with fire. "You're in my kitchen suit," she said, her voice low but sharp. "Watch where you're going next time." Nathan blinked, caught off guard. People didn't talk to him like that, not in boardrooms or his world. He opened his mouth to respond, but Lily was already crouching, scooping up the broken pieces with a rag. The teenager from the tables hurried over with a broom, shooting Nathan a wary glance. Nathan said, "I didn't see you." His tone softer now, almost defensive. He reached for his wallet, pulling out a crisp $100 bill. "For the bowl. And the trouble." Lily stood brushing her hands on her apron again. She eyed the bill like it was an insult. "Keep your money," she said. "Just don't break anything else." The other patrons exchanged glances, some stifling smiles. Nathan felt a flush creep up his neck, an unfamiliar sensation. He wasn't used to being dismissed. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled a business card, and set it on the counter. "Nathan Harper," he said, meeting her gaze. "I owe you a meal. Call me and I'll make it right." Lily glanced at the card, her expression unreadable. "We'll see," she said, turning back to the kitchen. Nathan lingered momentarily, watching her move with that same fierce precision. Then he turned and stepped back into the rain, the card's weight on the counter, lingering in his mind like a challenge. Lily stood behind the counter, the next morning staring at the card. Nathan Harper. Harper Enterprises. She'd heard the name before everyone in the city had. The man who turned neighborhoods into luxury condos, who reshaped skylines with a signature on a contract. She tossed the card into a drawer, trying to focus on the day's prep. But the memory of his blue eyes, sharp, yet oddly vulnerable in that split second after her rebuke, stuck with her. The restaurant was busier than usual that day, and the lunch rush brought in regulars and a few curious newcomers. Lily moved between the kitchen and the front, her hands a blur as she chopped herbs, ladled broth, and bantered with customers. Her mother, Diane, a wiry woman with a warm smile and the same rich brown skin as her daughter, worked the register, her eyes flicking to Lily with a mix of pride and concern. "You okay, baby?" Diane asked during a rare lull. "You've been quiet since last night." Lily shrugged, wiping down the counter. "Just some clumsy guy breaking dishes. Nothing new." Diane raised an eyebrow but didn't press. She'd raised Lily to handle her battles and trusted her daughter's strength. Still, the weight of the rent increase hung over them both, unspoken, but ever present. Lily's thoughts drifted to Nathan's card as the day wore on. She didn't trust men like him, men who thought money could fix anything, who saw places like her neighborhood as nothing more than profit opportunities. But there was something about how he'd looked at her, like he'd seen her, not just the chef or the mess on the floor. It unsettled her. As she locked up the restaurant that evening, a man in a cheap suit approached her. He was middle-aged, with a nervous smile and a clipboard. "Lillian Gween," he asked. She nodded, wary. "Who's asking?" "I'm with Harper Enterprises," he said, handing her a folder. "We're contacting local business owners about the redevelopment project in this area. Mr. Harper thought you'd want to see this." Lily's stomach twisted. She opened the folder, scanning the glossy proposal inside. Words like revitalization and luxury retail jumped out alongside a map highlighting her street, her home marked for demolition. Nathan's name was stamped across the top. She closed the folder, her jaw tight. She told Mr. Harper, "I'm not interested," shoving it back at the man. He hesitated, then nodded and scurried off. Lily stood there, the rain starting to fall again, her heart pounding. Nathan Harper wasn't just a clumsy customer. He was a threat. The next day, Nathan sat in his corner office on the top floor of a glass tower downtown. The city sprawled below him, a chessboard of opportunities he'd mastered over the years. His desk was cluttered with contracts and blueprints. But his mind was elsewhere, on the small restaurant, the sharp-tongued chef, and how her eyes had cut through him like a knife. His assistant Priya knocked and entered holding a tablet. "The outreach for the East Side project is underway," she said. "Most businesses are open to negotiations, but Taste of Home. The Vietnamese place flat out refused." Nathan's brow furrowed. Lily Nguyen Priya nodded. "She told our guy to take a hike." Politely but still. Nathan leaned back in his chair, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He'd expected resistance. Small businesses always fought change at first. But Lily's fire intrigued him. He'd built his career on reading people. She wasn't like the others. She wasn't intimidated or swayed by his name or money. "Set up a meeting," he said. "I'll talk to her myself." Priya raised an eyebrow. "You sure? She doesn't seem like the negotiating type." "I'm sure," Nathan said, his eyes drifting to the window. The city gleamed under the morning sun, but all he could see was the glow of paper lanterns and a woman who dared to call him out. Lily, meanwhile, was back in her kitchen, chopping onions with a ferocity that made the other cooks steer clear. The folder from Harper Enterprises sat unopened on a shelf, a silent accusation. She didn't need to read it to know what it meant: displacement, erasure, another community torn apart for profit. She'd seen it happen before in other neighborhoods to other families. As she worked, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Nathan Harper. I want to discuss the project. Dinner tomorrow, 7 p.m. Your place. I'll bring the wine." Lily stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the screen. She wanted to tell him to shove his wine and project, but something stopped her. It could be curiosity. It could be strategy. She'd meet him on her turf if Nathan Harper wanted to play games. She typed a reply. "Fine. Bring red. And don't break anything." The stage was set, two worlds, two wills about to collide again. The evening air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked asphalt and the faint hum of Los Angeles at dusk. Inside Taste of Home, the restaurant buzzed with its usual rhythm: clinking dishes, murmured conversations, and the sizzle of garlic hitting a hot wok. Lily Nguyen moved through her kitchen like a storm, her hands a blur as she plated orders and called out instructions to her small crew. Tonight was different, though. Nathan Harper was coming, and the weight of his presence loomed like an uninvited guest. Lily had spent the day preparing for the dinner rush, and the confrontation she knew was coming. The folder from Harper Enterprises still sat unopened on a shelf, its glossy promises a stark contrast to her restaurant's worn wood and chipped paint. She'd built this place from nothing, pouring her savings and soul into every recipe table and memory. The idea of Nathan Harper, real estate tycoon, dealmaker, destroyer of neighborhoods, waltzing in with his charm and wine, made her blood simmer. Nathan arrived precisely at 7, stepping through the door with the same confidence that had irked her 2 nights ago. He carried a bottle of red wine, a Cabernet Sauvignon, that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and his tailored suit looked out of place among the mismatched chairs and paper lanterns. The other patrons glanced up, some recognizing him from news articles or gossip blogs. But Nathan's focus was singular. He scanned the room until his eyes found Lily behind the counter. "Evening," he said, setting the bottle on the counter with a soft clink. "I kept Bogota." Lily wiped her hands on her apron and approached her, expression guarded. "You're punctual, I'll give you that." "Habit of success," Nathan replied, his smile easy but calculated. He glanced around. "Nice crowd tonight." "It's a living," she said, nodding toward a corner table. "Sit there. I'll bring you something." Nathan took the seat. His posture relaxed but his eyes sharp, taking in every detail: the faded photos on the walls, the handwritten specials board, the way Lily's team moved with practiced efficiency. He'd expected a dive, but this place had a soul, a warmth he hadn't anticipated. It made him uneasy, though he couldn't say why. Lily returned with a plate of spring rolls and a small bowl of dipping sauce, setting them down with a deliberate thud. "Start with these," she said. "Then we talk." Nathan raised an eyebrow, picking up a roll. "Straight to business." "You're the one who asked for this meeting," she countered, sitting across from him. "So talk." He took a bite, his expression shifting to one of genuine surprise. "This is good," he said, almost to himself. "Really good." "Don't sound so shocked," Lily said, leaning back. "I know what I'm doing. I can see that." Nathan set the roll down and met her gaze. "Look, I'm not here to play the bad guy. I want to talk about the redevelopment project." Lily's jaw tightened. "The one that's going to bulldoze my street. The one that's going to bring jobs, infrastructure, and growth to this area." Nathan corrected his tone, smooth but firm. "It's not personal, Lily. It's progress. Progress for who she shot back. Not for the people who live here. Not for my family, my neighbors, my customers." Nathan leaned forward, his voice low. "I get it. Change is scary. But this neighborhood is struggling, crumbling buildings, outdated utilities. My project can fix that. New housing, retail green spaces, and higher rents," Lily interrupted. "Pushing out everyone who's been here for years. You think I haven't seen this before? Developers like you come in, make promises, and leave us nothing." Nathan's eyes narrowed slightly, but his tone stayed even. "I'm not like the others. I'm offering to keep Taste of Home in the plan. Prime spot, rent-free for the first year. That's a good deal." Lily laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "Would you trust a deal from you? I know your reputation, Harper. Miami. Chicago families, displaced communities, gutted. You expect me to believe you'll keep your word?" Nathan's hand paused on his glass. Her words hit harder than he'd expected, stirring memories he'd buried deep. "You've done your homework," he said quietly. "But you don't know the whole story." "Then tell me." Lily challenged, her eyes locked on his. "Why should I believe you're different?" For a moment, Nathan didn't answer. He took a sip of wine, buying time. He wasn't used to explaining himself. Most people saw his name and either fawned or fled. But Lily wasn't most people. She sat there, unyielding, waiting for something real. "Miami was a mistake," he said, finally, his voice low. "I was young, ambitious, and I trusted the wrong partners. I didn't see the fallout until it was too late. I've spent years making sure it doesn't happen again." Lily studied him, searching for a crack in his armor. "Pretty words," she said. "But they don't change the fact that your project threatens my home." "I'm not your enemy, Lily," Nathan said, leaning back. "I want this to work for everyone. Give me a chance to prove it." She crossed her arms, unconvinced. "You're asking for a lot of trust from someone you just met." "And you're not making it easy," he replied, a hint of a smile breaking through. "But I'm not walking away." The air between them crackled with tension, neither willing to give ground. The rest of the dinner passed with cautious questions and guarded answers. Nathan asked about her recipes and family, trying to find an inroad. Lily countered with questions about his plans, timeline, and guarantees. By the time he left, the bottle of wine was half empty, and the distance between them hadn't budged. The next morning, Lily was back in the kitchen, her mind replaying the conversation. Nathan's offer had sounded good, too good. Rent-free for a year, a prime spot. She wasn't naive enough to believe it came without strings. Yet, there was something about how he'd spoken, a flicker of sincerity, that made her pause. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the day's prep. Her mother Diane noticed her distraction. "You're thinking about that Harper man," she said, "not a question." Lily sighed, chopping lemongrass with more force than necessary. "He's trouble, Ma. Wants to save the neighborhood by tearing it down." Diane frowned, wiping her hands on a towel. "Men like him don't change, baby. Be careful." "I know," Lily said, but her mind was already racing. She didn't trust Nathan, but she couldn't ignore him either. He was a force, and forces like that didn't just disappear. Across town, Nathan sat in his office staring at the city skyline. Lily's words had stuck with him, her distrust, her fire. He was used to winning people over, but she was different. She saw through the polish, straight to the cracks he'd worked hard to hide. His phone buzzed with a text from Priya Eastside, pushback growing. "Community meeting scheduled. You going?" Nathan typed back, "I'll be there." He wasn't sure why he felt compelled to go. Maybe it was the challenge in Lily's eyes, or perhaps something more profound, a need to prove he wasn't the villain she thought he was. Either way, the game had just begun. The morning sun filtered through the paper lanterns of Taste of Home, casting soft patterns across the wooden tables. Lily. Nguyen was in her element, her hands moving with practiced ease as she rolled rice paper around shrimp and herbs, the kitchen alive with the clatter of pots and the aroma of simmering broth. The restaurant had always been her sanctuary, where she could lose herself in the cooking rhythm. But today, that rhythm felt off, disrupted by the weight of Nathan Harper's visit 2 nights ago, and the glossy proposal still sitting unopened on a shelf. As she prepped for the lunch rush, the door chimed, and Min, a local high schooler who often helped out, burst in, clutching his phone. His eyes were wide with excitement, his words tumbling out in a rush. "Lily, you're trending." Lily frowned, wiping her hands on her apron. "What are you talking about?" Min shoved his phone toward her, the screen displaying a grainy photo under a garish headline. "Billionaire Nathan Harper's steamy night with mystery chef." The image showed her and Nathan outside the restaurant mid-argument, her hands on her hips, and his face caught in a half-smirk. The angle made it look like something it wasn't: intimate, charged, almost romantic. Lily's stomach dropped. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, scrolling through the article. It was from a local gossip blog that thrived on half-truths and clickbait. Harper, known for his cutthroat real estate deals, was spotted cozying up with the owner of Taste of Home, a quaint Vietnamese spot in East Side. Could this be love, or is Harper playing a new game to win over the neighborhood he plans to redevelop? "Paparazzi," Lily said, handing the phone back to Min. "They'll twist anything for a story." Min grinned, undeterred. "Still cool, though. You're famous now." "I don't want to be famous," Lily snapped, then softened at his crestfallen expression. "Sorry, kid. It's just, this isn't good for the restaurant." Min nodded, but his enthusiasm lingered as he headed to wipe down tables. Lily turned back to her prep, her mind racing. The article didn't just misrepresent her, it painted a target on Taste of Home. Already she could imagine curious strangers showing up, snapping photos, disrupting the quiet community vibe she'd worked so hard to maintain. By noon, her fears were realized. The lunch crowd was double the usual size, with unfamiliar faces crowding the tables, some openly staring at her or whispering as they scrolled on their phones. A couple of college students even asked for selfies, which she politely declined. The regulars, though, seemed unfazed, offering her sympathetic smiles as they ordered their usual bowls of pho or bun cha. Diane, Lily's mother, worked the register, her sharp eyes scanning the room. During a brief lull, she pulled Lily aside. "This Harper business is trouble," she said, her voice low. "First that project, now this. You need to stay away from him." "I'm trying, Ma," Lily said, frustration creeping into her tone. "He's the one who keeps showing up." "Then make it clear he's not welcome," Diane said. We have enough to worry about without some rich man stirring up drama. Lily nodded, but her mother's words didn't ease the knot in her chest. She didn't trust Nathan, but she couldn't shake the memory of their conversation the way he'd admitted to his past mistakes, the flicker of something real in his eyes. Was it all an act? She didn't know, and that uncertainty gnawed at her. Across town, Nathan Harper sat in his glass-walled office, a cup of black coffee cooling on his desk. His assistant Priya stood before him, tablet in hand, her expression a mix of amusement and concern. "You've gone viral," she said, turning the screen to show him the same article Lily had seen. Nathan groaned, rubbing his temples. "This is the last thing I need. It's not great for the East Side project either," Priya said. "The community's already on edge about redevelopment. This makes it look like you're fraternizing to get an edge." "I'm not fraternizing," Nathan said, his voice sharp. "I was trying to negotiate." Priya raised an eyebrow. "The photo says otherwise." Nathan leaned back, staring at the image on the tablet. He remembered that moment, Lily's fire, her refusal to back down. It hadn't felt like a game then, and it didn't now. But the optics were a disaster. His investors were already skittish about community pushback, and this kind of gossip could spook them further. "Get our PR team on this," he told Priya. "Spin it as a business meeting, nothing more. And find out who took that photo. I want them off my back." Priya nodded, already typing on her tablet. "What about Lily Nguyen? You still planning to meet with her again?" Nathan hesitated. He'd meant what he'd offered, a spot for Taste of Home in the new development, a chance to keep her business alive. But her distrust was palpable, and this media storm wouldn't help. Still, he wasn't ready to walk away. Something about her, her grit, her passion, pulled at him in a way he hadn't felt in years. "I'll handle her," he said finally. "Set up another meeting, somewhere neutral." Priya gave him a skeptical look, but didn't argue. As she left, Nathan's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Nice headline. "Harper, please stay away from my restaurant." It was Lily, her tone as sharp as ever. He couldn't help but smile even as he typed a reply. "Not my doing. Let's talk. Somewhere public, your choice." Back at Taste of Home, the day dragged on the influx of curious customers, turning the restaurant into a zoo. By evening, Lily was exhausted, her patience frayed. She was cleaning the counter when a woman in a sleek blazer approached her, smile too polished to be genuine. "Lily Nguyen," the woman asked, extending a hand. "I'm Jessica Tran, a freelance reporter. I'd like to ask you a few questions about Nathan Harper." Lily's grip tightened on the rag. "No comment," she said, turning away. Jessica persisted, undeterred. "The public's curious about your connection. Is there something more to this story?" "There's no story," Lily said, her voice cold. "I'm just trying to run my business." Jessica scribbled something on her notepad, unfazed. "Sure, but a photo like that? People talk. And with Harper's track record, they wonder if you're part of his next big deal." Lily's eyes narrowed. "Get out." Jessica blinked, then tucked her notepad away with a shrug. "All right, but this won't go away on its own." She left her heels clicking against the floor. Lily stood there, her heart pounding. The restaurant felt smaller, the walls closing in. She didn't need this, not the attention, speculation, or reminder of Nathan Harper's shadow looming over her world. She pulled out her phone and typed a reply to his text. "Public market tomorrow, 3 p.m. Don't be late." The next day, the public market was rioting with colors and sounds, vendors hawking fresh produce, musicians playing for tips, and families weaving through the crowd. Lily stood by a stall selling homemade jams, her arms crossed, scanning for Nathan. He arrived on time, dressed in a gray sweater and jeans, but still unmistakably out of place among the market's casual chaos. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, his tone careful. I didn't expect all this. Neither did I. Lily said, her voice clipped. But here we are. So what's your plan, Harper? Charm me into signing over my neighborhood. Nathan's jaw tightened. I'm not here to charm you. I'm here to make this work. Your restaurant stays, Lily. I meant that. And I'm supposed to believe you, she asked, stepping closer. After that photo, those headlines. You're playing a game, and I'm not part of it. I'm not playing. Nathan said, his voice low but firm. That photo was a cheap shot, and I'm handling it. But I was hoping you could meet me halfway. Lily shook her head, her eyes blazing. Halfway? You're asking me to trust a man who's made a career by tearing down places like mine. The argument drew glances from passers-by, but neither noticed. They stood there locked in a battle of wills, the market's noise fading into the background. It was a rare moment for Nathan to be seen not as a tycoon, but as a man with something to prove. For Lily, it was a fight for everything she'd built and loved. By the time they parted, no ground had been gained but the spark between them. Anger, respect. Something more burned brighter than ever. The community center buzzed with anticipation, its cavernous hall transformed into a glittering venue for the annual East Side Charity Gala. Tables draped in white linen were adorned with centerpieces of orchids and candles, and the air hummed with the chatter of local business owners, philanthropists, and city officials. Lily. Nguyen stood at the edge of the makeshift kitchen, her nerves a tight coil as she surveyed the scene. She'd been invited to cater the event, a high-profile gig that could put Taste of Home on the map. But the weight of the past week, the media storm, Nathan Harper's persistent presence, and the looming threat to her neighborhood made every step feel like a tightrope. Lily's team, a small but dedicated crew, worked alongside her, prepping trays of spring rolls, banh mi sliders, and mini pho cups. The menu was her pride, a blend of her family's recipes and her own innovations, designed to showcase the soul of her restaurant. She moved with precision, her apron tied tightly, her focus razor sharp, despite the chaos in her mind. Nathan would be here tonight. She'd seen his name on the guest list. The thought both irritated and intrigued her, a contradiction she wasn't ready to unpack. Across the hall, Nathan Harper mingled with the crowd, his tailored suit starkly contrasting the casual confidence he'd shown at the market. He shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, and fielded questions about his latest projects, but his eyes drifted to the kitchen area. He'd heard Lily was catering, and the chance to see her in her element, commanding, creating, pulled at him in a way he couldn't explain. He'd donated generously to the gala, partly to support the community and ensure he'd have a reason to be here tonight. As the evening progressed, Lily's team began serving, and the response was immediate. Guests raved over the food, their murmurs of delight returning to the kitchen. Min, the high schooler, who'd become a fixture at Taste of Home, darted between tables, refilling trays and beaming with pride. "They love it, Lily," he whispered as he grabbed another tray of sliders. Lily allowed herself a small smile. "Good. Keep moving, Min." She was plating a batch of coconut shrimp skewers when Nathan approached the kitchen with a glass of sparkling water. He leaned against the counter watching her work. He said, "You're stealing the show," and his tone was light, but genuine. Lily glanced up, her hands never pausing. "Not here for applause, Harper. Just doing my job." He nodded, unfazed by her sharpness. "Need a hand?" "I'm not entirely useless in a kitchen." She raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "You cook." He said, "I wasn't always in boardrooms," setting his glass down. "I wanted to be a chef once, a long time ago." Lily paused, her knife hovering over a bundle of cilantro. The admission caught her off guard, a crack in the polished facade she'd come to expect from him. "What happened?" she asked, her tone softer now. "Life," Nathan said, his eyes meeting hers. "Dreams change." For a moment, they stood in a pocket of quiet amid the gala's noise, the weight of his words hanging between them. Lily didn't know what to make of it or of him. But before she could respond, Min rushed over, his face flushed. "Lily, we're running low on sauce for the faux cups. Can you whip up more?" "On it," she said, snapping back to focus. She turned to Nathan. "If you're serious about helping, grab an apron. But don't slow me down." Nathan grinned, rolling up his sleeves. "Yes, chef." To her surprise, he wasn't terrible. He followed her instructions, chopping herbs with a decent grip and stirring the dipping sauce as she adjusted the seasoning. They worked side by side, their movements syncing in an oddly natural way. For the first time, Lily saw him not as a threat, but as a person, someone who'd had dreams, who'd made choices, who was trying in his own way to connect. The gala was in full swing when the first shout rang out. "Fire!" Someone yelled, and a ripple of panic spread through the hall. Lily spun around, her heart lurching as she saw smoke billowing from the back of the kitchen, where a deep fryer had been set up. Flames licked up the wall, catching on a stack of dish towels. "Min, get everyone out!" Lily barked, grabbing a fire extinguisher from the wall. The crowd was already moving, guided by event staff, but the kitchen was chaotic. Nathan was at her side in an instant, his calm surprising her. "Cover the fryer," he shouted, grabbing a metal lid. "Smother it." Lily sprayed the extinguisher, white foam coating the flames, as Nathan slammed the lid over the fryer, cutting off the oxygen. The fire hissed and sputtered, but it wasn't enough. The flames had spread to a nearby shelf, catching on boxes of napkins. Smoke stung her eyes, and her pulse raced, but she didn't falter. Nathan said, "Water's no good for grease fires," his voice steady. "Baking soda. Do you have any?" Lily nodded, her mind racing in the pantry. She darted to grab it, tossing him a box. He tore it open, dumping the powder over the burning shelf. The flames began dying, but the smoke was thick, choking. "We need to get out," Nathan said, grabbing her arm. "Now." Lily hesitated, her eyes on the kitchen, her kitchen, even if it was temporary. "I can't just leave." "You can," he said firmly, pulling her toward the exit. "It's under control." They stumbled into the cool night air, coughing as the fire alarms blared. The crowd milled around the parking lot, some snapping photos, others whispering about what had happened. Min found them, his face pale but relieved. "Everyone's okay," he said. "Fire departments are on the way." Lily nodded, her chest tight. She looked at Nathan, who was brushing soot off his sleeves, his expression unreadable. "You didn't have to stay," she said quietly. "Didn't feel right leaving," he replied, meeting her gaze. The fire trucks arrived, their sirens cutting through the night. The blaze was contained quickly. A faulty fryer, the firefighters said, likely a maintenance oversight by the venue. No one was hurt, but the kitchen was a mess, and the gala was over. Lily stood with her team watching, as the crowd dispersed, her mind reeling. The food exposure and chance to shine had all gone up in smoke. Nathan lingered nearby, his presence a quiet anchor. "I'll cover the damages," he said, his voice low. "This shouldn't fall on you." Lily shook her head. "I don't need your money, Harper." "It's not about money," he said. "It's about doing what's right." She looked at him, searching for the catch, but found none. For the first time, she wondered if she'd misjudged him. But the weight of the past week, the headlines, the project, the distrust kept her guarded. "Thanks," she said finally, her voice tight. "But I've got this." Nathan nodded, respecting her boundary. "You did well in there, Lily. You kept your head." "So did you," she admitted, then turned to check on her team, leaving him in the glow of the emergency lights. As the night ended, Lily stood alone in the parking lot, the adrenaline fading, leaving only questions. Who was Nathan Harper really? And why did she feel like the fire wasn't the only thing burning between them? The morning after the gala fire. Taste of home was quieter than usual, the air heavy with the scent of cleaning supplies and lingering tension. Lily Nguyen stood behind the counter, scrubbing a pot with more force than necessary, her mind replaying the chaos of the previous night, the flames, the smoke, Nathan Harper's steady presence beside her. The restaurant had escaped the headlines this time, but the fire had left its mark on her nerves and the community's trust. She'd spent the early hours fielding calls from regulars, assuring them the restaurant was fine, that no one was hurt. But the weight of it all pressed on her shoulders heavier than ever. Her phone buzzed on the counter, pulling her from her thoughts. An unknown number flashed on the screen, the message short and cryptic. Harper's not who you think. Check his past. Miami, 2012. Lily's grip tightened on the phone. She didn't recognize the sender, but the words hit like a punch. Miami. Nathan had mentioned it during their dinner, a fleeting admission of a mistake, but he'd brushed it off. Now someone wanted her to dig deeper. She set the phone down, her jaw tight. Trusting Nathan was already a stretch. His real estate empire, his polished confidence, the way he seemed to glide through life, untouched by its messiness. But the fire had shown her another side, a man who didn't flinch in a crisis and stayed when he could have walked away. The contradiction gnawed at her, and now this message fueled her doubts. The lunch rush brought a steady stream of customers, mostly regulars, who greeted her with warm smiles and questions about the gala. Min Thi, high schooler, who'd become her unofficial sidekick, darted between tables, his energy a welcome distraction. "Heard you were a hero last night," he said, grinning as he refilled water glasses. "Saving the day with a fire extinguisher." Lily snorted, chopping lemongrass with a steady rhythm. "Hardly. I didn't want my food to go to waste." Min laughed, but his eyes flicked to her phone. "You okay? You keep checking that thing." She hesitated, then shook her head. "Just a weird text. Nothing important." But it was important, and she couldn't shake it. By mid-afternoon, when the rush slowed, Lily slipped into the back office, a cramped space filled with recipe notebooks and unpaid bills. She opened her laptop and typed Nathan Harper, Miami 2012 into the search bar. The results flooded in articles, blog posts, and even grainy forum threads. The story was grim, a luxury condo project spearheaded by a younger Nathan Harper in Miami's Overtown neighborhood. Promises of community benefits had lured residents into supporting it. But the project had gone over budget-cutting corners on affordable housing commitments. When the dust settled, hundreds of families were displaced, their homes razed for high-rises they couldn't afford. Lawsuits followed, but Nathan's company had mainly emerged unscathed, while the community bore the scars. Lily leaned back, her stomach twisting. The articles painted a man driven by ambition, blind to the human cost of his deals. But they also mentioned his youth inexperience and a partner who'd taken the fall. Was that the whole story? She didn't know, but the warning echoed in her mind. That evening, Nathan appeared at the restaurant unannounced as usual. He was dressed casually, a navy sweater replacing his standard suit, but his presence still commanded attention. The dinner crowd was thin, and he sat at the counter watching her work with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "Thought you'd be busy putting out fires elsewhere," Lily said, her tone sharp as she slid a bowl of pho toward him. Nathan's lips twitched, but his eyes were serious. "I wanted to check in. Last night was rough." "It was," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. She studied him, searching for the man from the articles who'd left families homeless. "Why are you here, Nathan? Really?" He leaned forward, his voice low. "I told you I want to make this work. For you. For the neighborhood." "Then tell me about Miami," she said, her words cutting through the air. 2012. What happened? Nathan's expression shifted, a flicker of something raw crossing his face. He set his spoon down, his hands resting on the counter. "You've been digging. Someone made it easy," she said, crossing her arms. Anonymous text. "Told me to look you up." He frowned, his jaw tightening. "Someone's playing games," maybe Lily said. "But I need to know who I'm dealing with. So talk." Nathan took a deep breath, his gaze drifting to the photos on the wall. Snapshots of Lily's family, her community. His voice was quieter when he spoke, stripped of its usual polish. "Miami was my first big project. I was green, full of big ideas. I could change the game and build something that worked for everyone. My partner, Victor Ruiz, sold me on the vision, affordable housing, community spaces, the works. But the numbers didn't add up. Costs ballooned, investors pushed back, and Victor started cutting corners. By the time I realized how bad it was, families were losing their homes." Lily listened, her expression unreadable. "And you walked away." "Not precisely," Nathan said, his eyes meeting hers. "I fought to fix relocation funds and legal aid, but the damage was done. Victor took the fall and went bankrupt. I kept the company afloat, but I carried it. Still do." She studied him, weighing his words against the articles, the message, her own instincts. There was pain in his voice, a crack in the armor she hadn't expected. But trust was a fragile thing, and hers was already worn thin. "You say you're different now," she said. "But how do I know this project won't end up like Miami? Promises broken, people pushed out." "You don't," Nathan admitted. "Not yet. But I'm here, Lily. I'm not hiding. Ask me anything, and I'll tell you the truth." She wanted to believe him, but the weight of her community, her restaurant, and her family's legacy held her back. "I need time," she said finally, "and I was hoping you could prove it." Nathan nodded, standing to leave. "Fair enough. I'm not going anywhere." As he walked out, Lily's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "He'll burn you too. Be careful." Her heart sank, but she deleted it, refusing to let fear dictate her next move. The next few days were a blur of routine cooking, serving, managing the restaurant's tight budget. But Nathan's words lingered, as did the anonymous warnings. Lily kept her distance, focusing on her work, but the tension followed her like a shadow. She couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play, threatening her restaurant, and the fragile trust she was starting to feel for Nathan Harper. The late afternoon sun spilled through the windows of Taste of Home, painting the restaurant in hues of gold and amber. The lunch rush had faded, leaving a handful of regulars lingering over coffee and conversation. Lily Nguyen stood at the prep counter, her hands kneading dough for tomorrow's ban bao, her movements steady, but her mind elsewhere. The anonymous texts had stopped, but their echo lingered, a constant reminder of the stakes. Nathan Harper's confession about Miami had cracked open a door in her perception of him, but she wasn't ready to walk through it. Not yet. The door chimed, and Min, the high schooler who'd become as much a part of the restaurant as its recipes, bounded in with his backpack slung over one shoulder. "Lily, you gotta teach me that spring roll trick," he said, tossing his bag onto a chair. "The one where you roll them so tight they don't fall apart." Lily smiled, grateful for the distraction. "It's all in the tuck, Min. Come here, I'll show you." Min hopped behind the counter, his enthusiasm infectious. He was a lanky kid, all elbows and energy, and he'd been coming to Taste of Home since he was small, drawn by Lily's food and willingness to treat him like family. She was a hero to him, someone who'd built something real in a world that often felt unstable. As they worked rolling rice paper around shrimp and herbs, Min chattered about school, his dreams of someday opening his own food truck, and the latest gossip about the neighborhood. "You hear about the community meeting?" he asked, fumbling a roll and laughing as it unraveled. "Everyone's talking about Harper's project. Some folks think it's a done deal." Lily's hands paused, her smile fading. "It's not done until I say it is," she said, her voice firm. This place isn't going anywhere. Min nodded, his admiration clear. You're like a superhero, Lily. Nobody messes with you. She laughed, ruffling his hair. Keep practicing those roles, kid. That's the real superpower. The door chimed again, and Nathan Harper stepped in, his presence as jarring as ever. He wore jeans and a flannel shirt, a far cry from his usual polished look, but the air around him still carried that quiet authority. The regulars glanced up, some whispering, but Nathan ignored them, his eyes finding Lily behind the counter. Hope I'm not interrupting, he said, his tone light but cautious. Lily raised an eyebrow, handing Min another rice paper. You're constantly interrupting, Harper. What do you want? He held up his hands in mock surrender. Just here to eat and learn something. Min's eyes widened. You're that rich guy from the news. You gonna buy this place? Lily shot Min a look, and he clamped his mouth shut, focusing on his rolls. Nathan chuckled, pulling up a stool. Not buying anything today, kid. Just hungry. Lily studied him, skeptical but curious. All right, sit tight. I'll get you something. She disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a plate of chagio and a small bowl of nuuk cham. Nathan took a bite, his expression softening. This is incredible, he said, genuine admiration in his voice. How do you get the pork so tender? Family secret, Lily said, but her tone was less guarded than usual. You want to learn, you gotta earn it. Challenge accepted, Nathan said, leaning forward. Put me to work. Lily hesitated, then nodded toward the prep counter. Fine. Start with carrots. Julienne, not chop. Thin and even. Nathan rolled up his sleeves, grabbing a knife with a confidence that surprised her. He wasn't perfect. His cuts were uneven, his technique clumsy, but he listened, following her corrections with a focus that felt almost disarming. Min watched wide-eyed, occasionally piping up with tips of his own. You gotta hold the knife like this, Min said, demonstrating. Lily taught me last summer. Nathan grinned, adjusting his grip. You're a pro, huh? Lily's the pro, Min said proudly. She's the best. Lily felt a warmth in her chest, reminding her why she fought so hard for this place. It wasn't just about the food. It was about people like Min, the community that filled these tables, the stories woven into every dish. Nathan's presence, though, complicated things. He wasn't just a customer or a threat anymore. He was becoming something else she couldn't quite name. As the evening wore on, the restaurant settled into a gentle rhythm. Nathan stayed, helping with small tasks, stirring broth, wiping down counters, even joking with Min about his questionable knife skills. The regulars began to warm to him, some even striking up conversations about the neighborhood, their voices cautious but curious. Lily watched from the sidelines, her guard still up but softening at the edges. At one point, Min pulled out his phone, showing Nathan a video of a cooking competition he'd been obsessed with. Lily could win this easily, he said. She's got the best recipes in the city. Nathan glanced at Lily, his eyes warm. I believe it. Let's enter her. Lily snorted, but there was a spark of amusement in her voice. Dream on, Harper. I've got enough on my plate. The night ended with Nathan helping clean up stacking chairs as Lily locked the register. Min had left for home, his backpack slung over his shoulder, promising to practice his roles. The restaurant was quiet now. The only sound was the fridge's soft hum and the city's distant hum outside. Thanks for letting me hang out, Nathan said, leaning against the counter. Felt good to do something normal. Lily studied him, her arms crossed. You're not as useless as I thought. He laughed, the sound low and genuine high praise. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. Why are you doing this, Nathan? You don't need to be here playing sous chef. He hesitated, his gaze drifting to the photos on the wall. Maybe I want to be. This place, these people, it's real. I haven't had that in a long time. Lily didn't know how to respond. Part of her wanted to push back, remind him of Miami, the anonymous texts, and the project that threatened everything she loved. But another part saw the man in front of her sleeves rolled up, hands stained with fish sauce, trying to fit into her world. "Don't get too comfortable," she said finally, turning to lock up. "We're not friends yet." Yet Nathan echoed a faint smile tugging at his lips. As he left, Lily stood alone in the restaurant, the day's weight settling over her. Nathan was a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. But for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope that maybe he was worth the risk. The late summer heat clung to Los Angeles, making the air inside taste of home thick, despite the hum of the ceiling fans. Lily and Gwen moved through the restaurant with her usual precision, her hands deftly assembling plates of bonseo, the crispy pancakes sizzling as she ladled batter onto the griddle. The dinner crowd was steady, a mix of regulars and newcomers, drawn by the lingering buzz from the gala and the gossip blog's headlines. Lily tried to focus on the rhythm of her work, but the weight of Nathan Harper's recent visits and the anonymous texts warning her about him kept her mind on edge. The door chimed, and a woman stepped in her presence, commanding the room in a way that rivaled Nathan's. She was tall, her tailored blazer and sharp heels contrasting the restaurant's cozy chaos. Her dark hair was pulled into a sleek bun, and her eyes scanned the space with a calculated intensity. Lily recognized her immediately. Clara Evans, a rising real estate star known for her eco-friendly developments and ruthless deal-making. Clara's company Greenway Ventures had been making waves in the city, and her arrival at Taste of Home felt like a storm cloud rolling in. "Lily Nguyen," Clara asked, her voice smooth, but edged with purpose. She extended a hand, her smile polished. "Clara Evans, I've heard great things about your food." Lily wiped her hands on her apron, shaking Clara's hand with a guarded nod. "Thanks. What brings you here?" Clara's smile didn't waver. "Business mostly, and curiosity. I'm working on a project in this neighborhood, a sustainable urban hub, green spaces, and affordable housing. I thought I'd see what Taste of Home is all about." Lily's stomach tightened. "Another developer." She gestured toward a table. "Take a seat. I'll get you something." As Clara sat, Lily caught Min's eye. The high schooler was wiping down tables, his curiosity piqued by the new arrival. "She looks crucial," he whispered, passing by the kitchen. "Friend of Harper's." "Not sure," Lily muttered, plating a portion of chagyo with a side of nukcham. "But I don't like it." She delivered the food to Clara, who took a bite and nodded approvingly. "This is excellent," Clara said, setting down her fork. "No wonder Nathan Harper's been spending so much time here." Lily's expression hardened. "What's that supposed to mean?" Clara leaned back, her eyes sharp. "Just an observation. Nathan and I go way back, competitors mostly. But we've crossed paths personally, too. He's got a knack for charming his way into places. I'm sure you've noticed." Lily crossed her arms, her voice cool. "I don't charm easily. If you've got something to say, get to it." Clara's smile tightened, but she didn't flinch. "Fair enough. My company's interested in this neighborhood. Unlike Harper's plan, which is all glass towers and luxury retail minds about sustainability, community gardens, solar-powered units, spaces for local businesses like yours. I'd love to have Taste of Home as a cornerstone." Lily studied her, searching for the catch. Clara's pitch sounded too good, just like Nathan's had. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. "You're another developer with big promises." "I've heard it before." Clara nodded, as if expecting the pushback. "You're right to be skeptical. But I'm not Nathan. My track record speaks for itself. Check my projects in Portland or Austin. I deliver what I promise. And I don't have his baggage." The word hung in the air, a deliberate jab. Lily considered the anonymous texts and articles about Miami and Nathan's guarded confession. "What do you know about his baggage?" she asked, her tone sharp. Clara leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Let's say Nathan's good at rewriting his story. Miami wasn't a one-off. There's a pattern. Promises made, communities disrupted. I'd hate to see you caught in that." Lily's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. Clara stood, leaving a crisp business card on the table. "Think about my offer, Lily. I'll be in touch." As Clara left, Min sidled up, his eyes wide. "She's intense. You're gonna work with her?" "Not if I can help it," Lily said, tucking the card into her apron pocket. But Clara's words had planted a seed of doubt that grew as the night wore on. Across town, Nathan sat in his office, the city skyline glittering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. His desk was cluttered with blueprints and contracts. Still, he focused on his phone, where a news alert had just popped up. Greenwave Ventures announces bid for East Side redevelopment, challenging Harper Enterprises. Clara's move wasn't unexpected. She'd been circling his projects for years, but the timing stung. She wasn't just a competitor. She was personal. They dated briefly years ago, a fleeting connection that ended when their ambitions clashed. Now she was coming for his turf, and Lily's neighborhood was the battleground. His assistant Priya knocked and entered, her tablet glowing with updates. "Clara's making waves," she said. "Her team's already reaching out to local businesses and pitching her green city plan. And she's digging into your past, leaked some old Miami documents to a few blogs." Nathan's jaw tightened. "She's playing dirty. Always has," Priya said. "What's your move?" Nathan leaned back, his mind racing. Clara's tactics were calculated to undermine him and sway the community. He needed to counter her, but not with the same games. Lily's distrust was already a hurdle. He couldn't afford to lose what little ground he'd gained with her. "Set up a community meeting," he said. "I want to talk to the residents directly. No spin, just facts." Priya raised an eyebrow. "You sure Clara's got the eco-friendly angle? People love that." "Then we'll show them we're listening," Nathan said. "And get me a meeting with Lily. I need to know where she stands." The next evening, Nathan returned to Taste of Home, his presence quieter than usual. The restaurant was in its evening lull, with only a few regulars lingering over dessert. Lily was behind the counter teaching Min to fold dumplings, and her laughter lit up until she spotted Nathan. Her expression shifted, guarded, but curious. "Back again?" she asked, wiping her hands. "You're becoming a regular." "Could be worse," Nathan said, taking a seat. "Heard you had a visitor. Clara Evans." Lily's eyes narrowed. "Word travels fast. She's good at making noise," Nathan said, his tone even. "What did she offer you?" Lily hesitated, then slid a plate of dumplings toward him. "A spot in her green utopia. It sounded like your pitch, but it had better branding." Nathan took a bite, buying time. "Clara's smart. I'll give her that. But she's not your friend Lily. She's after the same thing I am: control of this neighborhood. The difference is I'm upfront about it." "Are you?" Lily challenged, leaning on the counter. "Because I'm hearing things, Nathan. About Miami, about you. And now Clara's saying you've got a pattern." Nathan's hand paused, his eyes meeting hers. "Clara's got her own agenda. We have history, professional and personal. She's using it to hit me where it hurts." "Personal." Lily's voice was sharp, but there was a flicker of something else. Curiosity, maybe even jealousy. "It was a long time ago," Nathan said, his voice low. "Didn't work out. She's been trying to one-up me ever since." Lily studied him, weighing his words against Clara's, the texts, the articles. "I don't care about your love life, Harper. I care about my restaurant and my people. I'm not signing up for either side if you play games. I'm not asking you to," Nathan said. "Don't count me out yet." She didn't respond, but the air between them was charged a mix of distrust and something deeper, something neither was ready to name. As Nathan left, Lily pulled Clara's card from her pocket, staring at it beside Nathan's 2 players. 2 promises, 1 neighborhood on the line. The morning light filtered through the blinds of Taste of Home, casting long shadows across the empty tables. Lily and Gwen stood in the kitchen, her hands buried in a bowl of dough, the repetitive motion a lifeline against the storm in her mind. The past week had been a whirlwind. Clara Evans's visit, Nathan Harper's persistent presence, and now a new blow, a video circulating online, posted by an anonymous account tied to Greenway Ventures. It was a montage of grainy clips Nathan at a Miami ribbon-cutting smiling as he shook hands with investors, juxtaposed with footage of displaced families packing up their homes. The voiceover was damning, accusing Nathan of prioritizing profit over people with Taste of Home's storefront, flashing briefly as his latest target. Lily had watched it once, her heart sinking as the comments piled up, some calling her a sellout for even talking to Nathan. The video was clever, edited to maximize doubt, and it worked. She'd spent the night replaying their conversations, his confession about Miami, the way he'd helped during the Gala fire. Was it all a facade? The anonymous texts had warned her, and now Clara's campaign was hammering the point home. The restaurant was quiet, and the lunch rush was still an hour away. Min was at school, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts, and her mother Diane sorting receipts at the register. Diane had seen the video too, her disapproval clear in the tight set of her mouth. "I told you to stay away from that man," she'd said that morning. "He's trouble, Lily. Always has been." Lily didn't argue. She wanted to believe Nathan was different, that the man who'd chopped carrots and laughed with Min was real. But the video had shaken her, and Clara's offer, Green Space's community focus, felt like a safer bet, even if it came with its own risks. Nathan, meanwhile, was in crisis mode. His office was a war room with Priya and his PR team scrambling to counter Clara's smear campaign. The video had hit just as he was preparing for the community meeting, and the timing was no accident. Clara knew how to play the game and was playing to win. Nathan watched the video again, his jaw tight, the old guilt from Miami rising like bile. He'd told Lily the truth, but not all of it. Not the sleepless nights, the lawsuits he'd settled out of pocket, the promises he'd made to himself never to repeat those mistakes. Clara was twisting the narrative, and Lily was caught in the crossfire. "We can sue for defamation," Priya said, pacing with her tablet. "The video's edited to mislead. We've got grounds." "No lawsuits," Nathan said, his voice firm. "That'll drag it out. We must go straight to the community, show them we're not the enemy." Priya frowned. "And Lily and Gwen? She's pulling back." "My sources say she's been talking to Clara." Nathan's chest tightened. He'd felt the shift in Lily last night, the way her eyes had hardened when he mentioned Clara. Losing her trust wasn't just a business problem. It was personal more than he wanted to admit. "I'll talk to her," he said. "Set up a meeting at the restaurant. Tonight." Priya hesitated. "You sure? She's not exactly your biggest fan right now." "I know," Nathan said, standing, "but I'm not giving up." Nathan arrived at Taste of Home that evening, as the dinner crowd was thinning. Lily was behind the counter, her movements brisk, but her expression distant. She spotted him and nodded toward a table, her voice cool. "You're persistent. I'll give you that." Nathan sat, his hands clasped on the table. "I saw the video." Lily's eyes flicked to his, sharp and unyielding. "So did I. So did everyone. You've got a lot of explaining to do." "It's not what it looks like," Nathan said, his voice steady. "Clara's team edited that to make me look like a monster. Miami was a mess, I told you that. But I've spent years trying to make it right." "Then why does it keep following you?" Lily asked, leaning on the counter. If you're so different now, why does Clara have receipts? Nathan's hands tightened. Because she's got an agenda. She wants this project, and will do whatever it takes to get it, including tearing me down. Lily shook her head, her voice low. I don't know what to believe, Nathan. You say one thing, she says another, and I'm stuck in the middle. My restaurant, my people, they're the ones who'll pay if this goes wrong. I get it, Nathan said, leaning forward. I know what it's like to lose something you love. I've been afraid of being left behind or insufficient my whole life. That's why I push so hard. But I'm not here to hurt you, Lily. I want to protect what you've built. The words hit her harder than she expected, a glimpse into a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. But the video, the texts, the stakes were too much. I need space, she said finally. I can't do this right now. Nathan nodded, standing. I'll respect that. But I'm not the guy in that video. Not anymore. Lily felt a pang of doubt as he left, not just in him, but in herself. She'd always trusted her instincts, but now they were tangled, caught between fear and hope. The next few days were a blur of routine. Lily entered the restaurant, avoiding Nathan's calls and Clara's follow-ups. She focused on her food customers and the small moments that grounded her, teaching Min new recipes, joking with regulars, and helping Diane balance the books. But the community meeting loomed, and with it, the decision would shape the neighborhood's future. Nathan, meanwhile, was grappling with his own demons. The video had stirred up old wounds, memories of families he'd failed, promises he couldn't keep. For the first time, he admitted that his fear of failure, of being abandoned by the world he'd fought to conquer, was driving him as much as his ambition. He wanted Lily to see him not the caricature Clara had painted, but trust he knew couldn't be forced. As the community meeting approached, Lily found herself at a crossroads. Clara's vision was tempting, but Nathan's sincerity lingered. She didn't know who to believe, but she knew one thing: she wouldn't let anyone develop a rival or otherwise take Taste of Home without a fight. The morning sun filtered through the smudged windows of Taste of Home, casting a warm glow over the worn wooden tables. Lily Nguyen stood behind the counter, her hands wrist-deep in a bowl of rice flour batter, the familiar rhythm of prep work grounding her against the chaos of the past week. The viral video from Clara Evans's team had shaken her, its damning clips of Nathan Harper's past looping in her mind. His words, his confession about Miami, his quiet vulnerability, clashed with the accusations, leaving her caught between distrust and a nagging sense that there was more to the story. The anonymous texts had stopped, but their echo lingered, and the community meeting loomed like a deadline she couldn't escape. Lily's mother, Diane, was at the register, sorting through a stack of receipts with a frown. The restaurant's finances were tighter than ever, the rent hike biting deeper each month. You've been quiet, baby, Diane said, glancing up. That Harper mess still on your mind? Lily sighed, wiping her hands on her apron. It's not just him. It's Clara, the video, this whole redevelopment fight. I don't know who's telling the truth. Diane's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. You don't need to trust either of them. Trust yourself. You've always known what's right for this place. Lily nodded, but her mother's words didn't ease the knot in her chest. She'd pushed Nathan away and told him she needed space, but the distance only made her questions louder. Was he the villain Clara painted, or the man who'd stayed to fight a fire, who'd chopped carrots with Min and laughed at his own mistakes? She couldn't shake the feeling that the video wasn't the whole story, and the idea of being played by Clara Nathan and anyone lit a fire in her. By mid-afternoon, the lunch rush had slowed, and Lily found herself alone in the back office, the cramped space cluttered with recipe notebooks and unpaid bills. She pulled out her laptop, her fingers hesitating over the keys. The video had been a slick hit job, but it relied on public records, court filings, news articles, and grainy footage. If there were truth to be found, she'd find it herself. She started with the Miami project, digging deeper than the headlines. Old court documents revealed Nathan's company had settled with displaced families, covering relocation costs and legal fees, though the damage to the community was undeniable. Forum posts from former residents painted a mixed picture. Some vilified Nathan, others noted he'd tried to mitigate the fallout after his partner's mismanagement. Then she found something new. A deposition from Victor Ruiz, Nathan's former partner, admitting to falsifying budget reports to secure investors. Nathan had been blindsided, the document claimed, and had taken on personal debt to fund settlements. It wasn't absolution, but a crack in Clara's narrative. Lily's search turned to the video itself. She rewatched it, pausing on the taste of home footage. The timestamp was wrong. It showed a date from months ago, before Nathan's first visit. The clip had been repurposed, spliced to imply a connection that didn't exist. She cross-checked the anonymous account that posted it, tracing its activity to other Greenwave Ventures promotions. Clara's fingerprints were all over it. Her heart pounded as she pieced it together. Clara wasn't just competing with Nathan. She was weaponizing his past to undermine him and sway the community. Lily's distrust of Nathan hadn't vanished, but this was a deliberate manipulation, and she wasn't about to let it slide. She grabbed her phone and texted Nathan. "We need to talk. Now. My place, 7 p.m. Then she called Min, who was at a school club meeting. "Kid, I need your tech skills. Can you dig into a video's metadata?" Min's voice crackled with excitement. "Heck yeah. Send it over." By evening, the restaurant was quiet, the dinner crowd still an hour away. Nathan arrived on time, his expression a mix of wariness and hope. He wore a simple button-down, his usual polish softened by the day's wait. Lily gestured to a corner table, her posture rigid, but her eyes sharp with purpose. "You've been busy," Nathan said, sitting. "What's this about?" Lily slid her laptop across the table. The video paused on the Taste of Home clip. "This is a lie," she said, her voice steady. "The footage is old, repurposed. Clara's team edited it to make it look like you're targeting me. And I found documents about Miami. Your partner screwed you over and you tried to fix it. Not perfect, but you tried." Nathan's eyes widened, then softened. "You did your homework." "I had to," Lily said, leaning forward. "I don't trust Easy Nathan, but I'm not letting Clara play me. Or you." He nodded, his jaw tight. "I should have told you more about Miami and Clara. She's been gunning for me since we split, professionally and personally. This video's just her latest move." Lily studied him, searching for the truth in his eyes. "Why didn't you fight back? Call her out." "Because I'm tired of fighting dirty," Nathan said, his voice low. "I've done it before, and it cost me. I'd rather lose this project than who I'm trying to be." The words hit her hard, stirring something she wasn't ready to name. "I'm sorry," she said finally, for pulling back. I had to be sure." "I get it," Nathan said, his gaze steady. "You're protecting what matters. I respect that." Lily felt a shift, a warmth spreading through her chest. She'd spent weeks guarding herself against him, but now, seeing him own his past, she realized she cared more than she'd meant to. "I want to fight this," she said. "Clara's plan sounds good, but it's just as much a land grab as yours. I'm not signing with either of you, but I want to save my neighborhood. With you, if you're in." Nathan's lips curved into a faint smile. "I'm in." They spent the next hour strategizing, poring over Clara's proposal and Nathan's plans. Lily's research had given her leverage. She knew Clara's green city relied on tax breaks that would expire, leaving local businesses vulnerable. Nathan offered to pull back his luxury retail component, focusing instead on community-driven spaces. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was a start. As Nathan left, Lily felt a spark of something new: trust and partnership. She was taking a risk, but it felt like her choice for the first time, not someone else's game. The next day, Min burst into the restaurant, his laptop under his arm. "Got something?" he said, setting it up on the counter. The video's metadata shows it was edited on software tied to a green wave contractor. "I found their invoice on a public bidding site. Clara's team paid for the hit." Lily grinned, ruffling his hair. "You're a genius, kid." Min beamed. "So what's the plan?" "The community meeting," Lily said. "We're going to show everyone who Clara really is." But as the meeting approached, Lily learned Nathan was making his own move. He'd called an emergency board meeting at Harper Enterprises, proposing to sell off a chunk of his company's assets to fund a trust for the East Side neighborhood, ensuring businesses like hers could stay, even if his project failed. It was a reckless move that could tank his empire and stunned her. He wasn't just talking about change, he was risking everything. Lily stood in her kitchen, the weight of her feelings settling in. She'd started this fight to protect Taste of Home, but now it was bigger about her community, her future, and the man who was beginning to mean more than she'd ever expected. The community center was packed, the air thick with anticipation, and the faint scent of coffee from a nearby urn. Folding chairs lined the room, filled with residents, business owners, and curious onlookers, their voices a low hum of debate and concern. Lily Nguyen stood near the back, her apron swapped for a crisp blouse, her nerves a tight coil as she scanned the crowd. The East Side community meeting was the battleground for her neighborhood's future, and she was ready to fight not just for Taste of Home, but for every family, every shop, every memory woven into these streets. Nathan Harper stood beside her, his usual suit replaced with a simple jacket and jeans, a deliberate choice to blend in rather than stand out. The past week had shifted something between them. Lily's research, confrontation, and shared strategy had forged a fragile alliance. She didn't fully trust him, but she believed in his intent, and that was enough for now. His decision to sell assets to protect the neighborhood had stunned her, a gamble that spoke louder than any promise. Clara Evans was at the front, her polished presence commanding attention as she presented her green city vision slides of solar panels, community gardens, and sleek, affordable housing units flashing on a projector. The crowd murmured approvingly, but Lily caught the skeptical glances from her neighbors, people who'd heard promises before. Clara's plan was seductive, but Lily's research had exposed its flaws: temporary tax breaks, vague commitments, and a history of prioritizing profit over community. When Clara finished, Nathan stepped forward, his voice steady but unpolished, a departure from his usual boardroom polish. "I've made mistakes," he began, facing the crowd. "You've seen the headlines and the video. I won't hide from Miami, it happened, and I own it. But I'm here to do better. My original plan for East Side was too big and too focused on profit. I'm scrapping the luxury retail. Instead, I'm proposing a community trust funded by my company's assets to ensure businesses like Taste of Home can stay no matter what happens." The room erupted in whispers, some hopeful, others wary. Lily watched, her heart pounding. Nathan's move was bold, but it put him at risk. His investors were already balking, and selling assets could weaken his empire. Yet he stood there, unflinching, his eyes flicking to her momentarily, as if seeking her approval. Clara's smile tightened, but she didn't interrupt. Lily knew her moment was coming. She'd spent days planning with Nathan and Min, gathering evidence to expose Clara's manipulation. When the moderator opened the floor, Lily stepped up, her voice clear and commanding. "I'm Lily Nguyen, owner of Taste of Home," she said, holding up her phone. "You've all seen the video about Nathan Harper. It's a lie. The footage of my restaurant was old, spliced to mislead you. Clara's team paid for it. Min, my assistant, traced the metadata to a green wave contractor. And Clara's Green City. It's built on tax breaks that expire in 2 years, leaving us with higher rents and no guarantees. She projected Min's findings onto the screen, and invoice email threads, and the video's metadata linking to Clara's company. The crowd gasped their murmurs, turning to outrage. Clara's composure faltered, her eyes narrowing as she stood. "That's a serious accusation," Clara said, her voice icy. "You have no proof." "We do," Lily said, holding up a printed copy of the invoice. "And I'm betting the press here would love to dig deeper." The room buzzed, reporters scribbling notes, residents whispering. Clara's team scrambled, whispering in her ear, but the damage was done. Lily felt pride not just for exposing Clara, but for taking control of her neighborhood's story. Nathan stepped up beside her, his voice low. "You were incredible." "We're not done yet," Lily set her eyes on the crowd. "Let's give them something to believe in." Together, they outlined a new plan, a scaled-down development with affordable housing spaces for local businesses and a community center funded by Nathan's trust. Lily proposed a neighborhood council to oversee decisions, ensuring residents had a voice. The crowd's skepticism softened, replaced by cautious hope. Questions came fast about funding timelines and guarantees, but Lily and Nathan answered with transparency, their partnership being a united front. As the meeting ended, residents approached Lily offering thanks and ideas. Min, who'd snuck in after school, grinned from the back, giving her a thumbs up. Clara left quickly, her team trailing behind her, green city vision tarnished. Outside in the cool night air, Nathan and Lily stood by the community center's steps, the city's hum, a soft backdrop. "You didn't have to sell your assets," Lily said, her voice quiet. "That was a significant risk." "It was worth it," Nathan said, his eyes meeting hers. "You made me want to do better, Lily, for the project and myself." She felt a warmth spread through her, a mix of respect and something deeper, something she wasn't ready to name. "We're not out of the woods yet," she said. "Clara's not done, and your investors might pull out." "Let them," Nathan said, his voice firm. "I'm done playing their game. This is about us, about East Side." Lily nodded, her guard softening. "Then let's do it right for Min, my mom, and everyone here." They shook hands, which felt formal and intimate, sealing their partnership. As Nathan walked away, Lily watched him go, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, she felt like she wasn't fighting alone. At Taste of Home, Lily planned a community dinner to celebrate the meeting's success and rally support. She and Nathan worked side by side, cooking and organizing, and their rhythm was a quiet testament to their growing bond. Min helped, his enthusiasm infectious, and Diane watched with a wary but approving nod. The dinner drew dozens, neighbors, shop owners, even a few reporters, each played a faux and bon mi, a reminder of what they were fighting for. As the night ended, Lily stood in her kitchen, and the restaurant was quiet again. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing: she and Nathan were in this together, and that was a start. The late September air carried a faint chill as Lily Nguyen locked the door of Taste of Home, the neon sign flickering off behind her. The restaurant had been her anchor through weeks of chaos. Clara Evans' smear campaign, Nathan Harper's unexpected alliance, and the community meeting that had shifted their favor. The neighborhood was buzzing with cautious hope, but Lily knew the fight wasn't over. Clara's silence since the meeting felt ominous, like the calm before a storm. As Lily slipped her keys into her pocket, her phone buzzed with a message from Min, the high schooler who'd become her right-hand tech sleuth. "Got something big. Meet me at the community center. ASAP." Lily's pulse quickened. Min had been digging into Clara's Greenway ventures, chasing leads on the manipulated video that had nearly derailed Nathan's credibility. She grabbed her jacket and headed out the city's hum, a steady backdrop to her racing thoughts. Nathan had risked everything, selling assets, scaling back his project to protect East Side. and she'd started to see him not just as a partner, but as someone she could care about. But trust was fragile, and Clara's shadow loomed large. At the community center, Min was waiting in a small meeting room, his laptop open, and his eyes excitedly bright. A young woman sat beside him, her posture nervous, her hands clutching a flash drive. "This is," Sarah, Min said, gesturing. "She works for Clara. Used to work for her." Sarah nodded, her voice low. "I was on Greenwave's PR team. At first I didn't know about the video, but I overheard Clara talking to her lawyer about other things. I quit last week. Couldn't stomach it anymore." Lily sat across from her, her expression guarded. "What things?" Sarah hesitated, then slid the flash drive across the table. "This has emails, invoices, and even audio. Clara didn't just fake that video. She paid someone to sabotage the gala kitchen, tampered with the fryer to cause the fire. She wanted to scare you, make Nathan look reckless, and push her Green City plan." Lily's stomach twisted, the memory of the gala fire flashing vivid, the smoke, the panic, Nathan's steady hand beside her. "You're saying Clara tried to burn us out?" Sarah nodded, her eyes downcast. "She didn't want anyone hurt. Disruption. She thought it'd make Nathan's project look unstable, drive you to her side." Min chimed in, his voice eager. "I cross-checked the invoices. They match a maintenance company that Clara hired for the gala. And the audio, it's her voice telling her team to make it look accidental." Lily's hands clenched, anger surging. Clara's tactics weren't just dirty, they were dangerous. She took the flash drive, her mind racing. "Why come forward now?" she asked Sarah. Sarah's jaw tightened. "I grew up in a neighborhood like this. Clara's plan sounds nice, but it's a facade. She'll gentrify East Side, push out everyone who can't pay. I couldn't stay quiet." Lily nodded, her resolve hardening. "We need to make this public. The community deserves to know." Min grinned, already on it. "I sent the files to a friend at the LA Times. They're running a story tomorrow." Lily ruffled his hair, a rare smile breaking through. "Your trouble, kid, the good kind." She texted Nathan, community center now. "Big news." Then she turned to Sarah. "You're sticking around for this, right? We need you to back it up." Sarah nodded, her nervousness easing. "I'm in." Nathan arrived 20 minutes later, his jacket slung over his shoulder, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. Lily filled him in, showing him the flash drive's contents. His face darkened as he listened to the audio. Clara's voice cold and calculating, discussing the fryer sabotage. "She crossed a line," he said, his voice low. "This isn't just business anymore. It never was." Lily said, her eyes meeting his. "She played us all, but we've got her now." They spent the next hour strategizing with Min and Sarah. The LA Times story would break Clara's credibility, but they needed to rally the community before she could counter. Nathan suggested a press conference hosted at Taste of Home to present the evidence and reaffirm their commitment to East Side. Lily agreed, but her mind lingered on Nathan, the way he'd stood by her, the risks he'd taken. She was starting to see him not just as an ally, but as someone who'd earned her trust, and maybe more. The next day, the restaurant was transformed into a makeshift press hub. Tables were pushed aside, a podium set up, and cameras lined the walls. Residents filled the space, their faces a mix of anger and hope. Lily stood at the podium, Nathan beside her, as she laid out the truth: Clara's sabotage, manipulated video, and hollow promises. Min projected the evidence on a screen, the invoices and audio drawing gasps from the crowd. Sarah spoke briefly, her voice steady, as she confirmed her role and decision to come forward. The press ate it up, questions flying, as Lily and Nathan answered calmly. Clara's absence spoke volumes. She'd issued a vague statement denying involvement, but the evidence was damning. By noon, the LA Times story was live, trending across social media, with hashtags like #SaveEastSide and Taste of Home. The community rallied, neighbors posted support, and local businesses pledged to back Lily's vision. Nathan pulled Lily aside as the crowd dispersed, his expression softer than she'd ever seen. "You were a force out there," he said. "I'm proud to be on your team." Lily's chest warmed, but she kept her tone light. "Don't get too comfortable, Harper. We've still got work to do." He smiled, a spark in his eyes. "How about a break? There's something I want to show you." Curious. Lily followed him to his car, a sleek sedan that felt out of place in East Side's gritty charm. They drove to Santa Monica, the city giving way to coastal calm. Nathan led her to a small garden behind a community center, its rows of herbs and vegetables thriving under the sun. "This is mine," he said, his voice quiet. "Bought it years ago after Miami. I wanted a place to start over and do something real." Lily walked the rows, her fingers brushing basil leaves, the scent grounding her. "It's beautiful," she said. "Why keep it a secret?" "It's not a secret," Nathan said, his eyes meeting hers. "Just personal. I've been thinking about turning it into a school, cooking classes for immigrant kids, teaching them skills, giving them a future. Please run it." Lily's breath caught. The idea was bold, generous, a perfect fit for her passion. But it was his trust in her, his belief in her vision that hit deepest. "You're full of surprises, Harper," she said, her voice soft. "I'm trying," he said, stepping closer. "For you. For this." The air between them crackled, a moment heavy with possibility. Lily didn't pull away, but she didn't close the gap either. "Let's get through this fight first," she said. "Then we'll talk." Nathan nodded, respecting her space. As they drove back, Lily felt a shift, not just in their partnership, but in her heart. The truth was out. Clara was on the ropes, and for the first time, she saw a future where taste of home and Nathan could coexist. At the restaurant, Min was waiting, his laptop open with new ideas for the community trust. Diane watched from the counter, her skepticism softening as she saw Lily's resolve. The neighborhood was rallying, and Lily knew they'd won more than a battle, they'd reclaimed their story. The early autumn sun bathed East Side in a golden glow, the neighborhood alive with the hum of construction and community. Taste of Home stood as its heart, its neon sign freshly repainted, the windows gleaming with new life. Inside, Lily Nguyen moved with her usual grace, her hands assembling trays of banh mi for the grand opening of Flavors of Tomorrow, the cooking school she and Nathan Harper had built from his Santa Monica garden. The past month had been a whirlwind: Clara Evans's downfall, the community's triumph, and the deepening bond between Lily and Nathan. Today was a celebration, not just of a new venture, but of everything they'd fought for. The school was a modest space, its walls lined with photos of East Side's history, families, festivals, and Taste of Home at its center. Stainless steel counters gleamed under bright lights, and a small herb garden thrived outside, a nod to Nathan's original vision. Lily had designed the curriculum herself, blending her family's recipes with classes on culinary skills, business basics, and cultural pride, aimed at immigrant kids like Min, who was already signed up as the first student. Nathan stood by the entrance, greeting guests with a warmth that had become second nature. His empire had taken a hit. Selling assets to fund the community trust had spooked some investors, but he'd gained something more: a purpose, a partnership, a place in East Side's story. He caught Lily's eye across the room, his smile softening the edges of his usual intensity. She nodded back, her heart lighter than it had been in months. The grand opening was a community affair with neighbors, local business owners, and reporters filling the space. Min darted between groups, his excitement infectious as he showed off the kitchen to his classmates. Diane was there too, her pride evident as she chatted with regulars, her initial wariness of Nathan replaced by cautious respect. The LA Times story and Sarah's evidence had dismantled Clara's campaign. Greenwave Ventures had withdrawn its bid, and Clara faced legal scrutiny for the gala fire. Eastside was safe for now, its future shaped by the community trust and the neighborhood council Lily had championed. As the event started, Lily took the stage, a simple platform at the room's center. "Welcome to Flavors of Tomorrow," she said, her voice clear and steady. "This isn't just a school, it's a promise. To our kids, our families, our stories. We're here to teach, to learn, to grow together. And I couldn't have done it without all of you and Nathan Harper." The crowd applauded, their cheers warm and genuine. Nathan joined her, his presence a quiet anchor. "This is your victory," he said, his voice carrying over the room. "Lily showed me what matters, community roots heart. I'm honored to be part of it." The speeches gave way to food platters of spring rolls, pho, and coconut sticky rice, all prepared by Lily's team with help from Min and his friends. The air filled with laughter music and the clink of glasses, a celebration of resilience and hope. Lily moved through the crowd, her smile bright, but her mind lingering on Nathan. Their partnership had grown into something more, a connection forged in fire and trust, but she hadn't let herself name it. Not yet. As the evening wound down, Nathan found her by the herb garden, the stars bright above. "Walk with me," he asked, his voice soft. She nodded, following him through the garden's rows, the scent of basil and lemongrass grounding her. They stopped by a small bench, the city's hum distant. Nathan turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "You changed everything." "Lily," he said, "I came to Eastside for a deal, but you showed me what I was missing. This school, this community, it's more than I ever thought I'd build." Lily's chest tightened, his words stirring something profound. "You didn't have to stay," she said. "You could have walked away, kept your empire." "I didn't want to," Nathan said, stepping closer. "I wanted you." The air stilled, the weight of his words settling between them. Lily's breath caught her guard falling as she saw the man before her. Not the tycoon, not the headlines, but Nathan, raw and honest. She said, "Your trouble, Harper," her voice teasing but warm. "I hope," he said, "the good kind," pulling a small box from his pocket. He opened it, revealing a delicate silver ring, shaped like a tiny spoon, its handle curved into a heart. "Lily, Ngeen, you're the heart of this place and mine. Marry me." Lily's eyes widened, a laugh escaping her. "A spoon ring? Really? Thought it was fitting." Nathan said, his smile nervous but genuine. "You in, or am I gonna have to keep chopping carrots to prove myself?" She took the ring, sliding it onto her finger. Its weight was perfect. "I'm in," she said, her voice soft but sure. "But don't think this means you're off dish duty." Nathan laughed, pulling her into his arms, the garden wrapping them in its quiet embrace. The kiss was slow, sure a promise of a future they'd build together. The crowd inside cheered, unaware of the moment, but caught in the same spirit of hope. As they rejoined the party, Min ran up, his eyes wide. "Lily, you're engaged. That's so cool." He hugged her, then fist-bumped Nathan. "You better treat her right, man. Always." Nathan set his arm around Lily. The night ended with music and stories, the community stronger than ever. Flavors of Tomorrow wasn't just a school. It was a symbol of what they'd fought for. A future rooted in love, resilience, and the flavors of home. Lily and Nathan stood together, their hands linked, ready to face whatever came next, side by side.